not even recording. We explained last class that the pursuit of happiness is not something that is financial. So we compared the three different hierarchies financially. So we were looking at the rich man, the middle class man, and the poor man, and we came to the conclusion that they are all pretty much unhappy. And we said the rich man was because when you reach a certain amount of status and a certain amount of money, you want more and more and more, and you become greedy, and it starts affecting your midot and your character, and then it never ends. It becomes a vicious pattern. Then we went to the middle class, which we said he works his whole life and he waits to be retired to enjoy it, and then when he's retired, he's too tired to enjoy it. So pretty much his whole life he's working really hard, but then he doesn't get to enjoy it. And then we spoke about the poor, which basically they work for the rich, so they can't even work for their dream, they work for others' dreams, and they keep constantly comparing what they don't have. So then we got into the conclusion, okay, well, what is happiness then? And we spoke about the fact that we can only reach fulfillment when we elevate our lives and we connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we connect to Hashem. So the only way really to reach that happiness, that state, is really when we connect to Hashem, when we bring Torah into our lives. So today, I want to echo off that, and it's part of the same chapter, I want to say, going off happiness. We're going to talk about reward in this life. So it's a very, very interesting topic. So I want you to really think about it. And before we go into it, I want to ask you something very important. I want you to think about it. I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. So what is something that you do that no one sees and no one appreciates, but you know it takes a lot of strength? Especially us Jewish moms and Jewish women, there's a lot of things that we do in our daily lives that no one sees and no one appreciates, and it takes a lot of effort, and we do it anyway. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about it.
Taking care of everybody, loving them.
Okay.
It's a lot of effort.
What do you say? I didn't hear.
Taking care of everybody and loving them, and it's a lot of effort, and you have to constantly be doing it, and not everything is
But you
seen or
think
noticed.
some people they don't see it, or they see it that you do that, no?
Right. So it could be things that are unseen, like something internal. So I can give you an example. Like my husband comes home, let's say I'm exhausted with the kids and I'm about to be like, go give them a shower, go, I'm dying to just have my own space. And then he comes and he tells me, Sha, he calls me Sha, I really need to decompress. I'm like, you need to in my head, I didn't say this, but I'm like, you need to decompress. And I don't say a thing. I hold it back, right? So those are things that nobody sees. Nobody's going to appreciate or give me like a pat on the shoulder, but it's something that I did, and it took a lot of effort because I'm also tired. I'm also, exhausted. I also want to have my own space. I'm overstimulated with the kids. I've been with them all day.
He knows that
right?
too, but he only say it, but he knows all that too.
Could be. If he's a very good husband, then yes. So my husband for sure knows. But there are other things. I want you to think about it because I don't want to, I'm going to...
about ideas when I'm in Israel, mostly when I'm in Israel. So let's say that now my uncle is coming to visit my aunt, okay? And my aunt said, oh, my brother is coming to visit my sister. Do you want to go? No, I'm in the middle of work, because in Israel I'm also working. I'm in the middle, I'm leaving everything, and I show that it's important for me as well. It is important, but not at that moment. But I don't show it. I say, okay, when you get ready, because she doesn't drive, so I go with them. Well, I'm like in the middle of work. I'm like, it's not the right time for me.
Right.
But it's so important for me to do it for my mom because she wanted to see her brother and sister now. So the timing was not good. I also want to see them, but not at that time.
Right.
So I just do it for my mom.
Beautiful. Love it. So for those of you who came in, we're discussing what is something that you do that no one sees and no one appreciates, but takes a lot of effort from you.
But I think that my mom do appreciate and do understand, but she still asks, but because she still thinks that, okay, so we'll go to back work afterwards.
I think like every person is different.
Of course.
So I think So I love to help.
Right.
And so I don't do that because they have to give me back. I don't do it like that. But sometimes you see some people that is they don't have nothing, you know. So some people they don't appreciate anything, but not everyone is like this,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So there's things that I do that some of them are like that, but not all the people.
Right,
So
right.
I don't have something that I can say that they don't appreciate, because I think people they need to learn to appreciate, but not it's something that is not for everyone, you
Of
know.
course. Right.
I don't know. Maybe
Another
you have
example,
the answer.
and no, I don't. I'm learning with you guys, and this is why I like discussion based, because everyone has different examples. But another thing that happened to me this week was I had like something so juicy that I needed to get off my chest. And in my head, I'm like defending it, you know, I'm like, no, but I need to let it, you know, I need to steam off, and it's important and it's healthy to like let things go by talking about it. You know, I'm trying to defend it in my head. And then I'm like, no, it's considered Lashon Hara, like we're not allowed. And I held it back.
Wow.
Nobody sees that. Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
It's in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is something that takes an insane amount of effort.
Okay.
I-
Now have
for me.
something that
So that's what I'm talking about. Like something internal that happens in each and every one of us, that could be working on midot, actions, whatever it is, that nobody sees, but you do it anyway. And it's like nobody's going to pat you on the back or tell you, Kol hakavod, Sharon, Kol hakavod, Shani. What's something that you can think of that has happened?
What happened to me 2 days ago? They asked me for a design for a bottle of brandy, and I was doing all the part of gold and everything. So, and he's a friend of mine. I said, of course I'm gonna do it, and I was so excited and everything. And then I was until 3 o'clock in the morning doing all the design and everything, and I sent everything. And in my mind I said she's gonna be so happy and everything. And then next morning, she only say something wrong, you know? And I say in my head, what? I don't understand why people have to be like this. And I did, I said, it's the way you say things. Because and I say, you know, I'm gonna say how I was, someone is working, and they send me something, and I see it, and I see something I don't like, I will never go and tell him, you know, I'm gonna say the thing that I don't like. I'm gonna say, you know, it's beautiful, thank you for your effort.
Exactly.
Right. And then, but you know, this part, because it was only one thing that it was too big. But the person only relying on that, in the bad part.
Right.
And I say, wow, like if only she can say other things first, and then the end, she can say, you know, but this is a little bit too big. Can you just change it around?
Right,
of course
right,
I will,
right.
You know, but I say, wow, it hurts. But at the end I say, you know, people are like that, I'm gonna keep going.
Beautiful.
But that's the thing, it hurts inside.
Beautiful. Anybody else?
Like any mido, like you're working on anger.
Yeah.
Right.
Like people only see when you pop,
Exactly.
but they don't see that.
So
you're
true.
Like,
It's so
I'm keeping my mouth closed.
Yeah, you wanted to
so
say
true.
something?
It's all the time when you're working on yourself, and nobody can see that, but you and Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and it does require a lot of effort. Whatever midah we have to work on, whether it's anger, whether it's yes, whatever it is, like when you really work internally on containing or let's not say containing, but maybe channeling yourself into another direction, and sometimes you have to pull yourself in the total other direction in order to be able to be in the middle.
Right.
So this is so difficult,
So difficult.
but definitely it is also so satisfying, because we feel like, what, you know what, I can make the right choices, and it's okay. It doesn't happen all the time. The moment I did it and I managed to hold my mouth and not share that juicy news, or not share that, what do you mean, like I worked so hard, like can't you see that, or anger, it is amazing. And to have been able to contain that or channel it into another direction, it's wow.
Yeah.
I think like it's more difficult than lifting like that table. Like it's really more difficult.
Years ago, I will say something to this person, you know. I will say, "Are you kidding me? I worked all night and I didn't say anything."
Wow.
You know, and I said, you know, she needs to grow like I'm growing, and the only way that I'm growing is because I started to go to shiur, Hashem,
Beautiful.
and that's the only way.
It is the only
And
way.
I'm in peace. But before I wasn't like that.
Wow.
I wasn't like that. So that's the whole thing.
There's a lot of, so you gave a lot of beautiful examples, and I want to share a few more because, you know, some people can relate to these. But it's also women, for example, who can get pregnant right away, and some women have to go through rounds and rounds of IVF,
That's
and
me too.
nobody sees the struggle. Nobody sees the struggle. Everything is behind closed doors. When a woman just had a newborn and she's going outside and she's smiling, even though she hasn't had a week's worth of sleep, and her baby is colic, and whatever it is, us women go through so much, and there is zero recognition. Nobody's patting you on the back. Nobody's giving you a trophy. You're working 7 hours on your legs, you know, hosting people for Shabbat. Nobody sees that. They just see, oh, beautiful table, you know. And then, you know, they'll say like, oh, she's a little tired. It's like, yeah, I worked really hard, you know. So it's a very common theme in the Jewish woman's world, where there's so much, I want to say internal, but also external struggles that nobody sees, but we all go through. So some examples are invisible housework that never ends. When you do laundry and you're folding every little boxers from my toddlers, you know, every little thing. Nobody sees that, you know. They just see it in their back, you know, it's clean and it's back in their closet. They don't see all the work that goes behind it. Covering your hair on days you feel insecure, saying eno di milvado when anxiety strikes, choosing peace over being right, dressing up on Shabbat when I want to wear pajamas. That's like my number one struggle. I'm like, my husband's always like, can you like dress nice for Shabbat? I'm like, my love, I just want to wear like leggings and a shirt. And he's like, no, it's Shabbat. That's one of my biggest struggles. So like, nobody's going to pat me on the back if I'm going to wear a dress. My husband's going to be like, oh, you know, he's going to think it's for him. But really, it's, you know, you want to do it for Shabbat Kodesh. Holding back a very sharp response, like I explained, when your husband comes home and, you know, he's like, oh, I need my space, and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, I also need my space, you know. Just being quiet and be like, okay, I made you dinner, right? All of these internal struggles where we hold things back is really, you know, something that we all experience. So Rabbi Dessler explains, and this is a very interesting concept, when we're learning about this world and Olam Haba, which is the next world, he explains that, okay, don't freak out, guys, there is no reward in this world, because the world simply cannot contain the spiritual magnitude of a mitzvah's reward. So he explains that every mitzvah that we do, and everybody explained now, holding things back is a mitzvah. When you're holding back and you're working on your midot, it's a huge mitzvah. So he explains that there's no reward in this world for the things that you do that are internal struggles, that are things that no one sees. There is no reward, because the magnitude of how much reward you get it cannot contain, this world cannot contain it. It's a very, very beautiful concept, so we'll go into it. But most of the things we do in this world, if we really think about it, we don't receive, like I said, a reward. When we show up for someone, when we cook Shabbat for 6 hours straight, nobody's giving you a trophy. Nobody's going, kol hakavod. Maybe my mom if she's FaceTiming me, but otherwise, nobody's seeing that. So Rabbi Dessler gives a mashal, and he explains that imagine someone working for diamonds, but they're paid with the dust of the diamonds. So dust, it sparkles for a second in the sun, because usually when you shave a diamond to shape it, right, and you shave it off, you have like the leftover dust. So it sparkles a little bit in the sun because it's the remaining of the diamonds, but it's not worth anything compared to the real thing. So he says this is the Olam Ha'asiyah. Olam Ha'asiyah is the world that we live in, which is the world of action. And he says we have dust pay. We're paid with dust. It's not the real reward. The reward that we think is comfort, Baruch Hashem, we're financially stable, whatever it is that you want to say that feels like a reward, maybe even something that's your comfort, you have a home, you have a beautiful family, which seems like a reward. Actually, it's very, very little compared to the magnitude of how much Hashem wants to give us. So there's a lot of times where the refinement process, which is what we spoke about when we're holding things back, when we're containing things in order to work on our midot, when we work on the action, that no one will recognize it. We don't get reward. No one's paying us for changing ourselves. And no one can really understand the internal struggle. If I tell you right now, I held back my tongue, all these things, you can kind of relate to it, but no one can really understand unless they're really in your shoes. So he says, we realize that we're not getting paid in the world at all for every mitzvah we do. But even more so, if you think about the time, and this is very interesting, where you really refined yourself and you held your tongue. If you got a reward for it, you get a compliment, kol hakavod, you get a cup of coffee, someone invites you for dinner. Is it really worth how much you worked? No. If somebody said to me, oh, kol hakavod, Sharon, for everything, you're like, no, you don't really get it. Like, it really was so hard. You won't understand the magnitude of my struggle. So giving me a cup of coffee, paying for my dinner, okay, yeah, that's a big deal. You know, I eat a lot. So, you know, it's nice, but it can't hold the magnitude of the effort. So that's what he's trying to say. So when we're talking about reward, Rabbi Dessler explains that it's not compensation, okay? Schar is not a compensation. It's not a payment. It's who you become. It's very interesting. So he says the mitzvot that we do, they sculpt the soul. And because our growth is eternal, because every time we hold something in, it's so eternal, the magnitude of it, that he says, so too the reward is eternal. And when something is eternal, something that is finite like this world cannot contain it. Okay, that's what he's explaining. So the world, he says, the world can give you comfort. It can give you convenience. It can give you relief. But none of these translate to the soul pleasure of the connection and the closeness we have to Hashem. So let's go even deeper into this. Rabbi Dessler explained, by the way, stop me if like something is not clear, that reward in this world, what looks like is a reward is actually a test. It's very interesting. So he says what we think is reward, wealth, comfort, success, status, power, it often tests us more than if we suffered. Because when we suffer, the challenge is clear. But sometimes when we're comfortable, when we have the wealth, when we have the status, when we have the power, when we have the perfect week, we're like, Baruch Hashem, I deserved it, right? But no, he says every reward that you have in this world is a tool in order to transform yourself. So this is a perfect example. The good week that turns into a test. So you have a Jewish mother. She has a rare week that everything is perfect. Kids are always sleeping good. Her baby isn't waking up 4 times a night. Her husband's in a good mood. She gets a little extra money unexpectedly. She feels calmer, more put together. She's in the mood to dress up in the morning. Her house is clean, her energy, everything is flowing. Even her tefillah feels good. Okay? So from the outside, what does it look like? Kadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hashem, I had such a beautiful week. But what's Hashem doing? So first she thinks, okay, maybe Hashem's rewarding me for all the mitzvot that I did, for the patience that I had this week, right? But really, it's not a reward. It's a test that's wrapped in comfort. Because now Hashem is saying, what is he watching? Is she going to be grateful for the week? Is she going to use this calm to grow spiritually or to spiritually check out? Okay, because sometimes when everything is good in life, you're like, okay, I don't need to pray today, whatever, I'm busy, like I have so much, so much going on. So he's testing all these things. Is she going to pray with the same intensity when everything is okay? Will she remember that everything is from Hashem or start feeling in control again? And will she stay humble when life feels easy? These are all tests. So we think, okay, we have a comfortable life, we have a beautiful life, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, I'm giving you a challenge, but are you going to use that challenge to transform yourself? It's a tool. So the week of ease and blessing is not a payout. It's Hashem giving her a new spiritual challenge, which is the challenge of comfort. So I was thinking of some examples in my personal life where it really hits the spot about what we're talking about. And I was thinking of my dad, God bless him, Amen. Very, very special human being. My father, he grew up in a family of 12 or 11 kids. Like always forget, 11 kids. He's one of 11 kids. And his mother, unfortunately, when he was 7 years old, she passed away. She had cancer. and they didn't even have the money to put her in a hospital. So he would hear her screaming at night from all the pain because they had nowhere to take her. They didn't have the money to treat her. And it really, really scarred my father. I mean, he doesn't tell me, but I'm sure it scarred him because, you don't have a mother growing up, and most of the time you see her suffering. So that was my father's life. He grew up in a very, very difficult conditions. And growing up, Baruch Hashem, he was able to make it financially, Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem. And it was very important for him to show, like, his brothers and sisters, I made it, right? Not in a bad way, just in a way that he explains, like, I went from these circumstances and Baruch Hashem, I made it in life, okay? Now, this could also have been from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a test. It's a test of comfort. Are you going to remember me? Are you going to make sure that you stay humble despite everything that you've accomplished, despite your difficult life? And I heard something from a close friend of mine, but I don't remember who told me. I don't know if it was her or somebody else. That growing up, I grew up with a really close friend of mine in high school or in middle school, I believe. And I remember that she also was struggling financially. And then one person came up to me, I believe last year, and it was the mother of this child, of my friend in middle school. And she said, your father is an incredible human being. And I said, why? And this is something that I didn't hear. He never told anybody this. And she said that she was raising money to keep her daughter in the Jewish middle school because she didn't have the money. And Baruch Hashem, like, she was able to communicate with my dad, and my father ended up paying the 4 years of school for her, the tuition. And so when I heard that, I was really, of course, I started crying. I was like, oh my God, because it's so important for my father to show I made it, but he also was able to surpass the test of humility, to surpass the test of, oh, look, I donated here, I donated there. He was able to actually hold back and to give this person whatever they needed, and he was able to pass the test of comfort. So everything that we receive in this life, whether it's wealth, status, power, influence, is always, it's a test, it's a challenge, it's a way for us to elevate ourselves. It's not a way to be like, okay, I made it, I'm good, now Hashem loves me. No, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, no, I want you even closer to me, and these are the tools that you have. Some people don't have the tools of wealth, but they have other tools. They have influence, they're able to speak really well. They're able to do chesed in ways that others can't. So everybody has their own tools and their own ability to do that, but you have to actually recognize what is the environment that Hashem gave you, what are the tools that Hashem gave you, and recognize that it's not necessarily reward, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says everything that you do in this life is so infinite. The world is not good enough. It's not high enough of a level for you to understand what is the reward of even the smallest mitzvah. Rabbi Dessler explains, and even Chazal explains, that even the smallest mitzvah, you get the reward it cannot even be contained in this world. So I also want to talk about the difference between good and reward, because it's very hard. It's a hard concept to grasp, because we think, okay, for good people, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reward us. And even in this world, you think, okay, Baruch Hashem, my kids are healthy because I pray for them. So it's very hard to understand, right? How do we differentiate between what is good and what is a reward? So the distinction is, Rabbi Dessler explains, that Hashem gives good in the world, like food, health, joy, family. But that good is not reward. It's tools to help us grow. Good is the conditions that we have, okay? So we feel good because, Baruch Hashem, we're able to have children, we have family, we have a good husband. And the reward, however, is who you become. So you take the circumstance, and the reward is the person that you become as a result. So it leads me to a very, very important conclusion. A person can suffer and still earn massive reward, while a person that lives comfortably can gain very little. Because in the challenge, we build the tools, and later we use it to transform. And someone who is very comfortable and is not pushed, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't send him challenge for a reason, even though the challenge is the comfort. If we don't recognize that, then there's no tool, and we can't transform. Because someone who has suffering, it's a little bit more obvious. It's more clear. Okay, I'm suffering because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants something from me. But when you have comfort, when you have luxury, When you have everything that you need, then you're like, okay, like, I can sit back, and you're not building the connection as strongly with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there's a question to be asked, and it's very interesting because Hashem writes in Parashat Vayikra, it's coming from his words, Im bechukotai telechu, ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, ve'asitem otam, ve'natati gishmechem beitam, ve'natna haaretz yevula, ve'etz hasadeh iten piryo. If you walk in my statutes, I think it means rules, or my
There's the rules that you cannot understand
You
why
cannot.
they come.
Right, the chukot, right. If you walk in these rules and observe my mitzvot and you perform them, then I will give you rain in its proper time, and the land will yield its produce, and the trees of the field will give their fruit. So you're like, it doesn't make sense. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is quite literally introducing us to the concept of reward. So how does that make sense? He responds that physical blessings promised in the Torah are actually means to greater spiritual growth. They are not reward themselves. So, example, rain, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you follow my rules, I will give you rain in your land, you will have produce, grow, and, Bezat Hashem will have a successful land. So, rain equals parnasa, which equals peace of mind, which equals the ability to serve Hashem better. That is the reward. Okay? So when you're able to... You have a question?
So you're basically saying whatever gifts that Hashem is giving, the more gifts that Hashem gives, the more tests. Because if it's much easier to fly through life, because you have the comforts or whatever, but you have to recognize where that came from.
Right.
You
It's
have
harder to
build up
recognize,
the
right.
family. You have to do chesed or whatever.
Right.
So
Exactly.
It's also like the good are the resources to serve Hashem.
Exactly.
Basically. Like, it's
Exactly.
not a reward, it's
Right.
a resource.
what are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
Interesting.
So it's not that mitzvot are rewarded with rain, it's that rain supports the mitzvot. Like you said, they are the resources Hashem is giving you. Here are the tools. There are some individuals who, Baruch Hashem, they're blessed with a lot of shefa and a lot of money. And what they do with that money is the test. So some people give a lot of zakah. Some people, they open yeshivot. They sponsor yeshivot, in Israel that you can sponsor like, the avrechim in yeshivot. You can sponsor them every month. You pay for their livelihood. So that is the test for the rich. But then the test of the poor could be being grateful for what they have, or being able to also not compare themselves to the rich or to other people. So everybody has their tests and their resources.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and it's a hard concept to grasp because not everybody agrees with it. But I think that when we realize that even in the comfort, even in the good, there's also this need, and that's with everything, to elevate and to transform, and that everything becomes like a what is that word? Like a breeding ground for growth, basically. So rain, produce, and abundance are means and they're tools enabling a Jew to serve Hashem with peace of mind and clarity. So Hashem says, for example, if you have a lot of money and then you're able to give charity and you're able to do all of these things, then Bezat Hashem, you'll have peace of mind. But if somebody uses that in order to be more greedy and it's never enough and it's never good, you're never going to have peace of mind, and therefore you will not be able to serve Hashem. Okay, so that is what I mean. So the true reward of mitzvot is something this physical world cannot contain. And I want to read something so beautiful, and I'm going to end with this, that he says, we all know that life is a mixed blessing, but during the course of a lifetime, everyone has some measure of joy and happiness. Let us collect, it's so crazy what he says, let us collect these scattered hours and minutes of pleasure and enjoyment of an entire lifetime and concentrate them into 1 minute. What does it look like for you? Concentrate your entire life of all the happy and incredible and fulfilling moments that you had. And then he goes even further and he says, concentrate into the same minute all the happiness and joy experienced by all the people in this city, in this entire city of Aventura, throughout their whole lifetimes. And then he says, this would still not be enough to explain the reward of all the life in this world. And he explains that even if you were to take everyone in the entire world, and you were to condense in 1 minute all their happiness and all their moments of fulfillment and gratitude and whatever it is, it still would not be enough to grasp the reward of even doing the smallest mitzvah. So it's to show you what is Olam Haba and what is the real reward. And again, we were explaining that when you hold yourself back and you have that inner conflict of not speaking Lashon Hara, of someone not being grateful for something that you do and not seeing all the hard work that you put into it, waking up at 4 a.m., for the sake of raising your kids in the right environment, all of these things that we go through of a Jewish woman's challenges, they are not seen. And the minute that they are not seen and not recognized, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it is infinite. Your growth is infinite. And so this world cannot contain it. And so he explains that our reward really is in the Olam Haba. Our pay in this world, the reward in this world, is a tool to help us elevate. And that is where we grow even more. And that is how we connect with Hashem even more. So I want to end with a reflection. So I want you to think about, which we spoke about this already, the moment in your day that takes effort and goes unnoticed. What is something that is in your life currently that you believe is a reward, but now can clearly see that is a tool for growth? So you have here, I didn't even hand out all the paperwork, but you'll have it now because I didn't want you guys to cheat. How does it feel to know that your real reward is something eternal and not something in this world? What is one small act you want to do with more intention this week? And what is the current reward in your life, which we already said, is a real tool for growth? So I want you to think about these. You can answer them on this paper, and we can discuss it now, or we could talk about it next week. I don't know if we have time now. Do we have time now? No.
Yes.
Yeah?
Okay. Next.
I'm over. So anybody has any comments or... I thought it was like a very interesting idea. Guys, you can talk here also. I see you. But I don't know. I think I'll upload the worksheet for them if they want to have it.
Sure.
Okay,
I
perfect.
can do it
Okay.
if you want.
Perfect. I thought it was like a very interesting concept because we think that everything is reward and punishment. It's not that. Hashem says everything that you do is for growth. So, yeah.
Very different.